Welcome to the Honeymoon Mindset Podcast. Even with kids, you can have a honeymoon mindset. We are your hosts,
Kimberly Mullen.
and James Deppa. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Honeymoon Mindset with Kids. Speaking of moving forward, Kimberly, we're coming up to the first of the year.
Yes, we are.
There's a lot of people out there, and you're probably one of them. I'm one of them too, that are getting into the mood of thinking of what they want to accomplish next year, setting goals, and making New Year's resolutions. I don't make New Year's resolutions because they never come true. They never.
Yeah, I don't either. Never have.
Now, you said you haven't had them set any long-term goals yet.
Right.
Why not?
I wanted to start them small, and just because this is literally something we just started 2.5 weeks ago and took a week off in between that 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
I guess I wanted them to start seeing how things affect you getting. And like even just with the Christmas cards of, okay, she had so many she wanted to make, let's not break that down.
Right.
That's getting her in the mindset of learning how to break goals down.
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't sat down yet. I wanted to see how they did with the daily goals and get them to see how productive they can be.
Right.
And I'm being the example. They're watching me check off my list. And not only do I have to do my list, but there are things on their list I have to help them with.
Right.
So I'm also helping them cross off their list, which adds to my list.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wanted to see them first, me being the example of, okay, these are my long-term goals, see how I'm breaking them down. I have a course I'm in the middle of. Okay, my goal with that is to get that course done, but I break it down into how much of a module do I want to do today.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. So they're seeing that, and then we will gradually get into the longer term goals. And it will probably happen faster than I even expected.
So true.
Because they are doing so well with the daily goals.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, since that's where you're heading next long terms. How do we help kids with long term goals? How do we look at? You already said one big thing is they're watching you break down these goals. But how do we get them kids? Because I think that's one thing that's missing in society today is kids don't know how to make long-term goals. They look at these goals and you've said it, oh, that looks so much, it's so impossible. So they revert back to their comfort zone and stay there. They get scared.
Yes.
Yes. I know Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, Dean Graziosi. If a goal says fear in you, that's where you're supposed to go.
Right.
And I agree with that too. I wouldn't have, but now after I heard it and the reasoning behind it is that, well, you're scared because it gets you out of your comfort zone. It pushes you. It makes you grow. It does something new, something different. So we're scared. So we don't.
Exactly.
We go back to our comfort zone. How do we get kids to help them set these big goals and dreams?
So exactly what we're talking about, show them that it can be broken down into smaller steps, and that when you take the smaller steps day by day, you get there faster and you don't give up, and you be the example. You let them see you doing it. And again, I never had this, and I'm still learning the whole goal setting thing. So we're all learning together right now, I'm teaching them as I learn it. And there's only been one time in my life where I really sat down with a coach and we made, I think it was 6 goals for me to accomplish within 6 months. And she helped me break it down to what can you do every month? What can you do every week? What can you do every day? And I had never done that before. And so that was really eye-opening to me. And I was like, whoa. Because when I thought about some of those goals, I was like, that's scary now. Never mind. Like, that's too much to put on my plate. But when I broke it down like that, I was like, oh, I accomplished them all. This is amazing.
Right. Yep. I think go ahead, Kimberly.
I was just going to say, and then after I accomplished them all, I was like, oh, now I know how to do it. But yet, without having accountability, I stopped doing it. So, accountability is huge too, especially for myself. I know I need somebody that I'm going to check in with all the time, that is going to help me set so many goals.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I have a business coach who helps me set my goals for every week. We meet once a week, helps me set my goals for the next week. And knowing that I'm going to have that call next week where I'm going to have to say, I accomplished this much. If there's something I didn't accomplish, there's a reason why. If I don't have that, even though I know how to do this on my own now,
Mm-hmm.
I don't hold myself accountable to.
Right. That's one of my big problems too.
Yeah. So and I finally was like, you know what? I didn't want to pay somebody to hold me accountable because I knew how to do it. So why shouldn't I just do it on my own? Well, because I'm not doing it.
Exactly. I had
So,
to deal with that as a limiting belief,
yes.
accountability from going back. I had to break that belief system, limiting belief, all the way back to childhood because I was told growing up and jobs I've had,
Hmm.
you need to do it yourself. You need to figure out how you do it before you come to me. If you have to come to me and you,
Uh,
so it's like, okay, so I have to hold myself accountable. I can't, so it's like I
so I
can't,
just won't do it.
yep, I can't inconvenience, I can't this. So it's like, that's a big thing that I've struggled in the last 6 months or something that I've had. So I've related, it actually came out through a coaching session I had.
Yeah, that's huge. That is huge.
Asking for help, I equated it with equaling trust.
Mm,
If I don't trust, I won't ask for help. And it just came as a light bulb. It's like, okay, I got to separate those two because I'm a firm believer. Asking for help is learning, asking for help is growing, asking for help is a positive thing. So why can't
right.
I do it? So it's like I finally made that connection here a couple weeks
And
ago, and it's like,
yeah,
okay, we got
and
to,
so many people. I'm sorry.
yeah, got to break that connection. Yeah, and so many people, what?
Mm. So many people will not ask for help. So many people believe they have to do everything on their own or they're a failure.
Yeah, and that's one way
It's a
of,
huge problem in this society, and
oh yeah,
I used to as well. I used to have a really hard time asking for help. And when people would offer me advice, I would be like, "Oh yeah, I already know that."
mm-hmm,
Whether I knew it or not, because I felt like I had to come across that I already knew it all.
yeah. So
Why?
that,
Why would I feel? Like,
yep. So asking for help and accountability is another process in goal setting, another
absolutely.
process of achieving those goals. The other thing
Mhm.
that you and I both know and done, because we're both neuro linguistic programming specialists,
Yes.
trainers, is that the other thing for me, I don't know if you, with the program you went through, we had a program called Dreamcatcher.
Okay.
And you go out to the future. What do you want? What's this big goal you want?
Mhm.
And the whole idea of the process is what does it look like? How does it make you feel? Why do you want
Mhm.
it? You add as many adjectives and descriptions as possible.
Mhm.
And why? How do you make them feel? What does it taste like? Smell like?
Sound like, look
Yeah.
like.
You add all the kinesthetics into it and everything.
Mhm.
And then you start breaking it down. You go back, say it's 5 years out. Well, they go back maybe a year, year and a half, or whatever. Well, what are you doing
Mhm.
for this? And then the other thing we also do is what's some of the objections that you see and feel?
Yes.
So they start seeing some of these problems and issues. Well, you've already dealt with it in your brain, in your subconscious in
Mhm.
this whole process. We try to get them as relaxed as possible. And then
Yes.
as they work their way back to today, it's like, yeah, I can do that. I want that. So it's also working
Yes.
on that pain and pleasure. I know Tony Robbins has a thing he calls Dickens. That's powerful if you haven't experienced that yet.
No, I haven't.
Oh, geez. It's intense.
Okay. Good to know.
But it's really good. He really plays on the pain and pleasure.
Mhm.
So I think the other thing with when we're setting goals, we really have to look at what's it going to cost us if we don't make this goal? And why do we really, really, really want this goal? Like, your children are in gymnastics, and maybe one of the girls want to go on compete professionally or become Olympic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, why do you want that? Why do you desire that? Why do you? Because once a goal, no matter how big, how outrageous it is, that's one thing Grant Cardone would say is, the more outrageous it is, the better the goal it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got to work for it. When we realize that, it makes it more attainable. And we can break it down more and get more desire to wanting to achieve it.
Absolutely. The program I went through didn't call it Dreamcatcher, but yes, we do we do exactly that, and we do it through timeline therapy,
Mm-hmm.
where we put the goal into our future, and you go on your timeline into the future and feel like you're really there, and see it and smell it and taste it and breathe it,
Yeah.
and hear the sounds you would hear while you're there, and the whole 9 yards. And then you come back to now on your timeline, and you see how those objections, you see how it all works out as you come back to now, and
Yeah.
how those things will be resolved
Yeah.
for you to get the goal you want. You brought up the gymnastics, and that is one of the things, like I said, we're not really setting long-term goals with the kids right this second.
Right.
But there is a meet next month that they can participate if they want. Now, they've done gymnastics on and off over the years. COVID
Right.
had shut it down, so there was a whole year and a half they didn't do any gymnastics, besides just like flipping around the park or something. But,
Right.
they weren't in classes for a year and a half, so they just got back into it within the last couple of months. So I wasn't sure if they felt ready to do a meet yet where they show off their skills.
Mm-hmm.
And the gymnastics facility sent over the routines that they would be doing and that they would know, and they'll work on it every week in class, and they can work on it at home. It is hard for us because we don't really have floor space in the RV for them to practice,
Right.
and it's raining outside, so and we don't have mats and bars and beams and everything at home.
Mm-hmm.
So they do kind of expect you to do more on your own at home as well.
Right.
So we do have to become resourceful and figure that out. But each of my girls sat down and looked at the routines they would have to do to decide, do I feel ready for that now, or do I want to make that a goal for next year to be able to do it? One right away said, yes, I want to do it right now. I feel good enough that I can practice enough to get good enough to do these things by next month. The other one looked at the routines, because they were two different sets of routines. They're in different classes.
Right.
And went, there's two things I don't know. I don't know if I should do it. And I said, okay, well, you have a choice, and I will not push you to do it. It is 100% your choice. You do have a choice. Do you want to try and practice those things within the month? You can do it in class, and we can think of ways we can help you at home. But there are two things. Do you think you can do it? And would you be okay with if you go there and maybe you fall off the beam?
Mm-hmm.
What would be the worst case scenario? People would laugh at me. Do you really believe the people in that room would laugh at you? Well, no. Okay, so worst case scenario is you didn't nail the routine this time, and you set a goal to be better for next year.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you don't have to do this. I'm just telling you, let's look at the worst case scenario. Let's think about whether you feel, I believe in you. I believe you can learn those two things by next month.
Yeah.
What do you think? And so she's like, they had class that night. She's like, let me go to class tonight and see how I feel after class tonight. And she came out of class and said, yeah, I want to do it. I said, okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have this many weeks until the meet that you have to practice this stuff.
Yeah. Plus, the other thing I probably would have done, or thinking as you're hearing this, is like, how would it feel if you were to accomplish this and do it?
Mm-hmm.
How would you feel that you've learned two new routines or 2 parts of the routine
Right.
and accomplish it in a month. How
Right.
would that make you feel? Because it's like, well, that would feel
Absolutely.
amazing. That would feel wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just like with the Christmas cards, let's break it down. So, okay, each week you need to work on something. Of course, she'll figure that out with her coaches and all that. But
Right. Right. Yep.
yeah, no. That's the
Yeah, I
other
love
thing I
that.
think you said that's pertinent with setting goals. The kids need to be comfortable. It needs to be theirs.
Yes.
It has to be their vision, their expectations. We got to make sure those expectations are realistic
Right.
because yeah, kids they are amazing and they do step up to the plate more than we as parents give them credit for.
Absolutely.
But sometimes we as parents, being around the block a little bit, we know what's realistic or not.
Right.
But I don't want to discourage them if they really want to try and accomplish something either.
Yeah, it's a really fine line. It really is of, okay, I know it's not realistic that you're gonna join the Olympics next month. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And kids do have a tendency to be like, well, if I'm not the best today, I quit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really, when I was young, gave myself limiting beliefs of I don't have to be the best at anything, and then I won't be disappointed.
Right.
And I don't want to give that to my kids, and yet I still want them to be very realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a fine line as a parent of showing both sides, like you said with this particular meet next month. Show the side of like, imagine how proud you feel when you accomplish this. And then the part of me that wants to protect her of, well, if I just say that and build her up to be so proud, and what if she doesn't do it? Then don't want her to beat herself up.
Right.
I
Right.
want her to know that it's okay if you don't get there in a month, you will get there, So it's such a balance. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a hard one to navigate as a parent for sure, of building them up, having them believe in themselves. She can do this.
Right.
Absolutely, she can. And being there to also let her know that if you don't check off every box on your daily list, or you don't um, nail that routine this time, that's okay too. Look at how far you came.
Yeah. Is
It's a fine
there
line.
a downside to setting goals for kids?
If they don't have the mentality of it being okay if they don't achieve it in the time frame they put, or if they don't even achieve it at all,
Mm-hmm.
if they have the mindset of I got further than I would have without this goal, and they can look at the positive of how far they came and where it got them
Right.
further in life, then that's great. But if they don't have that, and they're going to beat themselves up, give themselves low self-esteem, shame and blame themselves
Mm-hmm.
for not achieving it, that's definitely a downside and definitely scary, and something you, again, that fine line you really have to navigate and build them up, and be able to have them look back on it and say, but look how far you came.
Right. Yeah, I guess.
Be damn proud.
Right. Right. Because the reason I'm asking is I'm thinking of some of those kids or parents
Mm-hmm.
who are so task driven and task oriented, and
Mm.
it's like, oh, you only got this done. Why did you do this or that? And it's like it almost becomes like the parent is more looking down or berating the kid in a roundabout way, even though they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
accomplish and get stuff done for the parent, but yet it's not good enough. How, as parents, like you said, we need to make sure they are feeling like they strive, but how do we keep
Mm-hmm.
ourselves as parents in check so we're not coming down on the kids and making the kids feel bad?
I am so, so, so glad you brought that up, because my mind doesn't work that way. So that is such an important thing to consider, because my mind just doesn't work that way. I wouldn't ever look at my kid and be like, why is that all you got done? But you're right. There are people out there who do that. And that is so harmful to a child's psyche.
Mm-hmm.
And that has them setting goals only to please somebody else and not to intrinsically please themselves and be proud of themselves.
And I'd even take that step further and say then they look down at setting goals, period, because
Yeah.
it's a negative effect on them. It's a negative experience, and they don't want that feeling.
Yeah, they're going to go one of two ways. They're going to be like, F goals. They only make me feel bad about myself and make my parent think I'm a slacker, so I might as well just slack.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're going to be like, well, I'll show them and I'll get this done, but it's not for the right reason.
Right.
Doing your goals to make somebody else proud of you will never be for the right reason. It has to be for yourself. So I'm
Right.
so glad you brought that up because I wouldn't have thought of that on my own. And that is so key and so important when you're teaching a child how to set goals and tasks and move forward in life, that you
Yeah.
make sure they're doing it for themselves and that you always make sure they know they should be proud of how far they came, no matter how far it was.
Right. The other thing I think of is my daughter. She was a sort of a perfectionist, even though she wouldn't admit it. But yet she'd get everything done. It was done, but it wasn't perfect
Right.
for their goals and stuff. How would we handle that as a parent? Because I'm trying to tell her, it's like, your handwriting is beautiful. You got it all done. Just be done and let's go to bed or let's eat dinner, relax, have a good time. Nope, it's not right. It's not done. How do you work with a kid who feels like they, or seems like they're a perfectionist about things so
How
that they can still feel accomplished even though it's not perfect?
how did you do it with her?
A lot of times I just had to let her do it. It's
Yeah.
like I didn't want to argue or fight because
Mhm.
she'd get worked up and stuff. And it's like I kept complimenting her that, if it's her handwriting or whatever, it's like, it's beautiful. How
Yes.
can you make it any better? I mean, I'm not trying to, because otherwise she'll just get upset, irritated, and it's just like,
Right.
I guess that's where a parent is. You got to pick your battles on that one.
You do, and sometimes you do have to just give them the space to process it themselves.
So it's like,
I I get that. That example actually happened this morning with me. One of my daughters is a perfectionist at heart, and it's something we're definitely working on. And she went, if she goes into a project already upset,
mm-hmm,
she will berate herself and beat herself up because it will never be perfect because she's already upset.
right.
If she starts a project when she's in a really good mood and feels good about herself already, she'll be like, so what? It's a mistake. I'll learn from that.
Mm-hmm,
And today she was upset about something and she wanted to write her list to Santa. And right away she was like, this isn't good enough. My R's bigger than my D and it shouldn't be, and like picking apart everything. And so I was like, okay, can we pause for a second? You have choices here, and it's your choice. 100%. I will back away and let you do whatever you decide. But your choices are you can stop this and take a break from it until you're in a better mood. Because when you do these things, when you're not in a good mood, you're going to criticize yourself.
mm-hmm,
If you stop, take some deep breaths, come back to this when you're in a good mood, it will flow right out of you and you will be happy. It's like, or you can move forward now with it and understand that, it doesn't have to be perfect. Santa
mm-hmm.
doesn't care if your list is perfect.
Nope.
You're the one who's caring about this right now, so you need to decide. And she did kind of continue with it, but also at the same time, like, took some deep breath. Like, at first, she was like, no, I'm getting this done. It's on my list to do today, and I want it done. And so I walked away and I gave her the space to process it herself. I had given her some options. I walked away. She was able to process it herself, thank goodness, and go back to it in a much calmer state of mind and let it just kind of flow through her. And then she even like had to cross something off because she made a mistake and she was doing it in pen.
Mm,
And she did, and she was able to be like, so what? I crossed it off and then rewrote it. No big deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. Perfectionism is hard, and we talk about that a lot in our house, how nobody is perfect. Do
Yeah.
not expect perfection from yourself. Expect your best.
Yeah, that's one thing I've also told myself with some of this stuff. It's like that
Hmm.
I've learned through all these other, um, I forgot the name of them.
Modalities,
No,
tools, mobile.
groups, mindset
Yeah,
groups.
yeah. Yep,
That I've learned is perfection is a made up thing.
absolutely
There's
it
no
is.
such thing as perfection. I think we've talked a couple times on some episodes before. It's
Hmm.
something we make up in our mind, and it becomes this unrealistic expectation on ourselves.
It's
And that,
completely unrealistic.
yep, and I think that's the other thing. I think you've alluded to it and said it too. It's like making sure that these goals might sometimes take longer than we expected. Some
Hmm.
of these goals may not ever happen, but we have to be okay with that
Hmm.
because things change, we change, life happens,
Right.
and we're not in.
Reevaluate where you are at that time and what's best for you.
Yeah, and our interests and hobbies change too over times too.
Absolutely.
So that's where
They
it's like
totally do.
where you said, yeah, your kids really they need to be realistic. Yes, we want kids to learn how to achieve things. Go for the unexpected.
Hmm.
And when things don't happen, they got to be able to change. They got to be able to adjust. And when we put those expectations on them, or they put those expectations on them, because kids can do it to themselves too when they get angry
Oh,
and
they sure
frustrated.
do. Absolutely.
And that's
And
where you
beat
said,
themselves up.
mm-hmm. And that's where I think it's key where you've said with your kids, it's okay if you only get half of your list done.
Hmm.
And that's where I guess I asked earlier about prioritizing because, okay, what do you really want to get done today
Yes,
on your list of 10 things or however many they have on their list?
exactly.
Of course, I can see your son saying going to the bathroom on the list a couple times.
He does sometimes put eat candy on his list. I'm like, okay, but just know you're eating fruit first.
Mm-hmm.
That works for me. And you want to check that off. And I mean, he literally just turned 6 yesterday. So, yes, his goals are going to be much more in the mindset of a 6-year-old.
Of
And
course.
that's good because he's learning. He set a goal and he achieved it, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And as he grows and gets older, he'll already have the basics of goal setting.
Yep.
One thing I would really, really, really encourage parents to stop saying to their kids is the saying, practice makes perfect.
Mm.
Because they're, like you just said, perfect is made up. There's no such thing. And it
Yeah.
sets way too unrealistic goals because your kids will keep practicing and they'll never be perfect. They may be damn good at something. They may be the best at it, but they're still going to sometimes say it's gymnastics. They're still going to sometimes fall off the beam, even if they're the best in their
All
class.
right. Yep. Yeah.
So there's no such thing as perfection.
No.
So I would definitely encourage parents to say, the only way to become the best you can be is by practicing.
Right.
Practicing makes you the best you.
Yeah. Our one trainer, like, she'd say, practice makes a habit.
Mm, yep,
Practice makes habit. When you do
yep.
it over and over and over, it becomes a habit. And that's how you get better at it. Practice makes you better. Not perfect,
Yes.
better. And when you get better, it becomes a habit.
And there's always room to get better and to continue to grow and get better at anything you're doing.
Yep. Yep. So,
Very much encourage that.
yeah. Anything else before we sign off on this episode?
I feel complete, James.
I do too. I think we've talked about the importance of it, how we as parents need to set goals so our kids can learn how to set goals.
Be their example. We always say that.
Mm-hmm. And as they're setting goals, the other thing we always love to say, because it's so true, is we got to listen with our hearts
Mm-hmm.
and help them as they're setting goals. And I think it's beautiful what Kimberly's doing with her kids is starting out with daily goals and then start working into the bigger goals so they can start
Mm-hmm.
seeing how it works and how it's accomplished and
How to
taking
break
on
it
those
down.
bigger goals as they are ready and able to comprehend.
And
So,
again, James, I'm so glad you brought this up. I very much also encourage parents to be very mindful and aware to not use things like, oh, is that all you got done?
mm-hmm.
Instead, be like, oh, look what you did accomplish.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think the other,
Maybe tomorrow you'd get one more thing done.
yeah,
Who knows?
yeah. You've seen Office, right?
Yes.
Where Joe is in the conference room with her dogs,
Mm-hmm.
and it's St. Patty's Day, and they all want to leave to go celebrate St. Patty's. Well, do you feel accomplished today? No, no. So finally he says, me and my people, we've accomplished a lot. We've felt successful. We're calling it a day.
That's awesome.
That's the mindset we as parents need to help our kids get to. They need to feel accomplished. Like you said, the other day you got one out of your 3 things that you wanted to get done, but you felt accomplished.
I did. I really did. And that's huge. And that was a good example for my kids.
Mm-hmm. And that's where the kids need to learn too. Okay, yeah, you have 10 things on your list, but a lot of those are harder, and you need to learn how to prioritize them too. So,
Yes. Yes.
so
So I think we covered a lot today, and I'm really happy with it.
I am too. So, all right, parents, if you do need help talking to your kids about setting goals, or maybe you need help setting goals,
Mm-hmm.
in the link in the descriptions will be links to Sunrise Mindsets and Honeymoon Mindset. Reach out to us. Send us an email, direct message, and we will help you learn how to set goals. And we want to help you figure out why it's important to you and why you want to set goals. We know why it's important for us, and we see the value of it in our kids and in ourselves.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you said if you need help, because it always starts with doing it for yourself first so you can teach it to your kids. And I do have access to a goal setting program called the Happiness Plan that I would be happy to share with anybody who reaches out
Yeah.
and would like help with that.
Yeah.
It's really helped me break down my daily goals and keep track of my accomplishments.
Mm-hmm. So, check us out. Reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to come alongside you so you can feel more potential and maximize your life and spark the passion in you with Honeymoon Mindset with Kids. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.